Now, many of the intellectual and scientific leaders of our day have been humanists. And I think you should appreciate that fact. Here, we have a humanist gathering today. But we're part of a great tradition that began in Greece and Rome, also in China with Confucius, and also in India with the Carvaka movement, and is now truly global. So there are certain basic values that are everywhere shared. And they're not simply a question of caprice, but they have some basis in fact. I have known many of the leading humanists of our day. For example, John Dewey, the great American philosopher, who I, as a young graduate student at Columbia University half a century ago, first encountered. Carl Sagan, who was a significant astronomer you've heard about, which in the pantheon of humanists. Isaac Asimov, the great science fiction writer, has been part of our movement. I'm reminded when I visited him in his apartment first time on, I think, the 30th floor of Central Park West, we were discussing 500, he's written 500 books on science fiction, and he said to me, you know, when I wrote that bullshit, I never imagined people would believe it. That's neither here nor there. So many of the people that I've interacted with are humanists, and they do not come out of the closet. And Steve Radley said people ought to identify themselves. He wants to identify them as atheists, and I want to identify them as humanists. Maybe humanists who do not believe in God, but are committed to a whole set of human values. That is what is so crucial. A dear friend of mine was Steve Allen. Have you heard of Steve Allen? And Jane Meadows, yes. She was a redhead who would walk down the corridor brightly dressed, and he would walk with her. We were at a book convention. As head of Prometheus Books, I published 15 books by Steve Allen. And all the bees would come to Steve and Jane to get autographs. But at one of these book conventions, I introduced Steve Allen in his latest book. I think he called it Dumph, D-U-M-B-T-H. He was saying we're surrounded by dumb people with dumb theories, and he wanted to deal with that. And I introduced him. I said, I'd like to introduce you, because we're introducing his book at the American Booksellers Association, to one of the leading intellectuals in the media world. He was disarmed. He got up and he said, thanks, Paul. That's like introducing an auto mechanic as one of the leading brain surgeons in the world. He was very modest indeed. There have been so many outstanding people. I would say that a large majority of people in academia are humanists, secular humanists. They're critical of religion, skeptical of the dogmatic claims. Most of the faculty that I've known in all the universities I've taught are skeptical. They don't accept it. Now, there are people who are devout and are good scientists and good scholars and accept religion, but nonetheless, the 20th century, 21st century educated person is skeptical about religious beliefs, and he makes that point known, so that I don't think you should be ashamed of being a skeptic, doubting religion. The effort of the humanist movement in the 21st century is to have the general population appreciate the fact that we can be a scientist, a pharmacist, a dentist, a florist, a musician, any other occupation, and still be a non-believer about religion. My wife is French, and I've lived in France many years. and the kind of intermixing of the French and the American attitudes is very intriguing. She thinks we're too optimistic. And I said, oh, the French are too pessimistic. The difference between optimism and pessimism. But in any case, something like 90% of the French are irreligious, non-religious. Only a small percentage of the populations in Europe are religious. In Sweden and Norway and Holland, less than 5% identify with religious beliefs. They may be a member of a denomination for social reasons, but they're not religious. So religion is declining in Europe, and I know Europe very well. It's becoming secularized at a very rapid pace with the improvement of social security, of social benefits, so people have to worry about the future, the raising of the level of education. There's been a decline of traditional religion, and I think the same thing is true in the United States. So in answer to this lovely lady who asked me the question, are things getting better? Yes, I think that now it's possible to openly criticize religion, and people appreciate your point of view. I began my career in teaching at Trinity College. Have you heard of Trinity College? This is in Hartford, Connecticut. We called it the Episcopal Party and Republican Prayer. It was an Episcopal school. I was scared to death. My first job as an atheist philosopher from Columbia University at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. Jesus Christ, will I find out? They accepted me with no problem. And so, yes, I was very open to various points of view. Now, there are dogmatic islands of commitment in this country, even relatives in your families, no doubt, and we need to deal with them. But I think that atheists, agnostics, skeptics, I call myself a skeptic, and skeptics need no fear. If we doubt the revelation, or we doubt the sayings of Muhammad, or we're skeptical of Hinduism, surely in democratic societies, one need not fear. Of course, one wouldn't go and tell his boss, who is a devout Hindu, that you don't believe in Hinduism.